Good evening. Glad to have you with us again. Tonight, we want to tell you we're going to be starting into the book of Acts, which is the beginning of the church. But just before we get there, we have to join the very last part of the book of John with the book of Acts. In the very last part of the book of John, it's recorded that Jesus again met with his disciples at the Sea of Galilee. Third time that he's met with them. And he meets with a group of them that are going fishing. Now, we want to talk about the fishing trip a little bit, and then the breakfast that he made for them, and then finally, how God never gives up on us, and how he always has a plan that he's willing to say, let's keep going, let's go. So the fishing trip starts off interesting. It's been a number of days, obviously, since the resurrection. The disciples are kind of still trying to figure out the big math of everything that's going on. And you have a situation now where Peter makes a decision to go fishing. Guys, remember the previous fishing trip? This was different. In that fishing trip, Peter just loaned the boat, and Jesus said, let's go fishing. In this fishing trip, Peter's saying, well, let's go fishing. Yep. But we have a very similar outcome. So I'm going to read it first, and then we're going to jump over all over this particular story. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. It happened this way. Simon Peter, and then Thomas. Remember doubting Thomas? So we get Peter and doubting Thomas. Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, James and John, and two other disciples were together. And I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them. So this was his fishing trip. Yeah. This was, I'm going fishing. It's kind of interesting because that's what he did. That was his whole past life. Mm-hmm. Maybe Peter doesn't really see a place for him in the new economy of things. Yeah. Maybe he thinks, I've blown it, and so I'm kind of on the shelf, Yeah. Right. I'm not in the main game anymore.
Yeah, so he's kind of going back to what he does know. There's so much that's happened that he's unfamiliar with and unsure of and out of place, but he does know how to fish.
Yeah, everything's kind of boiled down now. It's not so extreme, like everything's quieted down, so he just goes back to what he knows to do, and that's fishing.
Yeah, and then the other guys know that he had denied the Lord. Like they know everything that happened, and so right away they're just, okay, we'll come too.
Yeah. Overcoming past failures is one of the hardest things. Not for God to overcome them. Here's the deal. God overcomes them by his grace, and it's a done deal. Mm-hmm. It's our view of self that somehow when we failed in the past, we've disappointed a picture we have of ourselves a lot, right? Yeah. And Peter's pictures had to change, and they're under change right now. And that's an important thing to understand about this fishing trip, I think. Mm-hmm. That's hard to change a picture about yourself, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that as I grow older. Yeah. Never mind. You guys will figure it out someday.
Older.
So in this fishing trip, they go fishing. We have the same kind of result. So these other guys say, we'll go with you. They go out into the boat, but that night, because he's professional fishermen, they fish at night. They caught nothing. Again, he catches nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. Now, they're about 100 yards, 100 meters out from shore. They're fishing at night. They haven't caught anything all night long. But I want you to notice where Jesus is on this fishing trip. We want to notice the differences between the two fishing trips. In the first fishing trip, Jesus is with him in the boat, and he's saying, Peter, let's go fishing. It's daytime. They're fishing now back at nighttime when the pros do it. Right? Mm-hmm. Now you see a difference that Peter doesn't have Jesus in the boat with him in this fishing trip. Mm-hmm. Jesus is standing on the shore, you see. Do you remember the response in the last fishing trip? What did they do with the boat? Quiz time. What did they do? They beached it.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
And now he's unbeached it. Yeah. We tend to do that, I think. When with past failures, we go back to the steadiest pictures that we have of ourselves, and you were mentioning he knows how to fish, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
But Jesus is on the shore now. And he's saying, hey, remember, you beached this. Wow. What are you doing out there?
Right. Wow. Come back, yeah.
Yeah. Here's where I am now, Peter. Here's where we start. Here's our starting point. Peter was seeing it as a finishing point, and he was done. Hard thing.
He's like, hey, I told you.
Yeah.
I was going to make you a fisher of men.
That's a good way to
Get back on the beach.
It's like, Peter, are you going to accept my picture? Are you going to try and, massage your bruised picture?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to do here? It's not an easy position to be in life.
No.
Yeah, doesn't catch any fish that night too, so it really makes him feel awful about himself.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Like,
Shuts him right down.
salt in the wound, right?
Yeah.
His job is over. Yeah.
It's almost like fishing with Brent.
Yes. I don't know about
Not
that.
anymore.
But
I've had some good
I
fortune
have to-
lately.
I have to admit the last fishing trip was way more successful. And you caught some really big ones at the ranch there. Just so you know, there is great big fish in the Kaskatnaw River where the ranch camp is. What kind of fish was it?
Walleye, but there's all kinds of different types of fish in there.
Oh, wait till you catch some more. Just let me see them.
Yeah.
But in this fishing trip, they get nothing again. So Jesus is yelling at them from the shore, right? Are you caught anything? Typical, if you've ever been fishing, there's usually one boat calling to the other boat.
One heckler.
Right? And the other boat, if they have been catching, lies and says, no, we haven't caught anything, because they don't want them in their spot, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that how it works? But they really hadn't caught anything. They said, basically, no. It's one word answer. Just no. And then Jesus calls out and he says, throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. I mean, how ridiculous is this? Somebody 100 meters away from you on shore, and they're telling you throw the net on the other side of the boat and you're going to catch your fish.
And I kind of get it, because by an entire night of fishing, you're just like, oh, I'd do anything to catch a fish. Anything. I'll use anything, any lure. And then, okay, well, this guy says, let's just try it.
Yeah, do it.
Maybe we'll catch one fish.
And that's how they responded, right?
Yeah.
But, the thing is, they would have thrown it on the right side of the fish of the boat all night long, too. But at this particular moment, this was to be done on the right side. And I think there's more than just a directional point in the word right here. I think it's also, this is just the right side
All right.
for you to throw it in
Right.
at this point in time. And they do. And when they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Oh, there's a repeat, right? But now the directions came from shore, not from in the boat. There's a point at which we want to return sometimes to the things that we have beached and should beach to follow Christ.
Right.
We want to return to our safe places.
A comfort zone.
But Jesus said, if you're going to follow me, it's not going to be so safe or comfortable.
Yeah.
There's some great things in this story.
Yeah.
So after they do that, as soon as Simon Peter heard him, John said, hey, it is the Lord. As soon as Peter heard John say that, it says he wraps his outer garment around, jumps in the water, and goes to shore, leaves the other guys with the work. And they were hauling the net in and bringing it in. But the guy that wanted to go fishing is first off the boat.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this was your trip.
Peace.
Might have been a few cat calls going on there,
Yeah.
And then we have an interesting thing. It says when they finally get the fish in there, they land. By the way, another difference was they were fishing in the shallows, because that was a professional thing to do at night. You fished in the shallows, right?
Right, yeah.
And Jesus had fished in the deep. There's just such interesting differences. And then Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish you have just caught. Simon Peter climbed aboard and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153, but even with so many, the net was not torn. And Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. He's already prepared breakfast. He already has fish, and so on. And it's an interesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so many times when God is asking something of us, it's not because he needs it, but, it's this obedience, right? He's asking for obedience. He's asking for trust. He's asking for faith.
And that's what's in here right at this point. It was a privilege for them to bring their fish, even though he already had fish on the fire.
Yeah, that's the part I see. Yeah.
He already had provision. God always has everything he needs. And by the way, everything that you need. But in this case, He demonstrates, bring some of the fish you caught too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cute. Come on over. Bring some fish.
Bring some of the fish I caught you. Yeah.
That is lovely how he invites us into that and makes us a part of that, right? And that he does want our offerings and our obedience.
I don't understand it. Hey.
I think you were saying before, it's sort of like when you're playing a game with your kid and you let your kid win, right?
Yeah.
And so on in a game. It's something that's really cool in this story. We see Jesus' graciousness to Peter, even though Peter's going back into his old pictures.
Yeah.
Even though he can't seem to bite into the new picture.
Yeah.
And now we have a change in story. After breakfast, they've all eaten and they had finished. Peter is asked 3 times by Jesus the same question. Simon, son of John, meaning Simon Peter, do you truly love me more than these? Remember, he's having a hard time with the picture?
Yeah.
That's what Jesus is really talking about. You got to make this shift, man. Because if you love me, this is a new picture. I know you're uncomfortable with it. I know it doesn't have all the comforts for you. But this is my picture. And you need to be a part of this picture. So he's asking him 3 times. And of course, Peter responds,
You know that I do.
Yeah.
Yes,
of course
Lord, I
do,
love you.
In fact, the 3rd time he gets kind of ticked off that he's asked. But he did deny the Lord, right?
3 times.
times.
Yeah. I think it's cool that he lets him kind of it's basically like he gets to apologize to him, right? And I know Peter wanted to so bad probably, and so it's his way of letting him fight for what he wish he would have said, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Jesus really makes that really plain, because his answer to him every time is then feed my sheep, right? What's he saying? Here's my new picture.
Yeah.
Time
This
change.
is my new picture of you, Peter.
Yeah.
Not a fisherman, a fisher of men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're now going to be a bishop, a shepherd. You're going to feed my sheep. And that was the picture change. He was moving from a fisherman to a bishop, to literally a senior shepherd that God was going to use. And he's saying, that's what I need you to do, Peter. I need you to our hardest pictures to let go of in life of ourselves are the ones where there's been bruising, where we failed.
Yeah.
And we want to, I don't know what it is. It's almost easier to let go of the nice
successes,
pictures to follow Jesus rather than the failure pictures.
Yeah.
The failure pictures are hard to let go of.
Yeah.
You guys find that out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nobody wants to get bit twice, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I think we all like to see ourselves in a certain light. And even, like Peter before the whole denial, he's like, no, Lord, I'll never deny. I'll go with you. I'll follow you right to death if I have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way we like to see ourselves too. It's like, I will never do that, or I will never allow this to happen in my life. And then when it does, it's just like devastating.
Yeah.
I think when we mess up, as Peter did, it's easy to think, oh, that's who I am. That's what I relate to. I wanted to be this person. I wanted to do better. But for whatever reason, I couldn't. So that must be the real me. And it's hard to let go of that.
Very hard.
Yeah.
The denial was 3 times, right? The question is 3 times. And I think with every denial, those 3, he has a distinct memory of each one.
Yeah.
And he has now a word from the Lord of a brand new picture that he needs to reach out and embrace for each denial. Letting go of those painful things is really difficult. You said something, Ethan, earlier that kind of, nobody likes to get bit twice. The idea here is oftentimes we want to set our new bar where our failure levels were. Right?
Yeah.
Because if we set it any higher than that, my gosh, I didn't even hit this one.
Yeah. That didn't get it the first time. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's an encouragement to all of us tonight. There's two words to finish this segment off with, and they're found later on in the same conversation. It says, Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, follow me. Now, you had brought up earlier, the earlier fishing trip. Jesus had said, follow me, but he had other words in there.
I'll make you fishers of men.
He didn't say that here. Because that was already done. The call was once and for all time.
Yeah.
It had been done. Peter just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Peter had been broken, but that's how he was going to actually transition from fishing fish to fishing men.
Yeah.
Was through his own brokenness. And he had to embrace his own failure, that picture, but then draw Christ's picture of being that shepherd of the sheep that he had a call on his life for. And for me, that's a picture of amazing grace.
Yeah.
When he comes back and says, Peter, follow me. Nothing else added. More or less, come on, pick it up.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go. And I think that's a great one for all of us. You're going to have failure pictures, serious ones. Believe me, the denials in that situation were serious ones. And those are the pictures that can set you up for really following and becoming what Christ is making you. Let him make you by grace through your failures. But then here again, the call that never changes. Follow me. Follow me. The call, it doesn't go away. Return to it fully. And let God do some amazing new things in and through you as he builds a new picture, which he did in Peter's life from that moment on again. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. You called my was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open. It's when you call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day. You call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness, into your glorious day.
Hi, folks. Do you know what I feel like praying right now? An out-of-control prayer. Sometimes when the emotions get so strong, you get angry, or you get frustrated. It's one of the hardest times to pray because we tend to want to rectify the emotions before we will pray the emotions. It doesn't work that way really good in prayer. We need to learn how to pray uncontrolled prayers. That's a hard thing, actually, because somehow we seem to think that we need to always project this air of control of ourselves towards a God that totally gets us anyway. There was a master of praying out of control prayers. He was so good at it. He used to write songs, all kinds of them, prayer songs that had a lot of out of control stuff in it. You know who I'm talking about. That's David. King David wrote many of the Psalms. Many of the Psalms are prayers. They're songs, they're prayers. And they have this out of controlledness about them, this very strong honesty that says, here's how I'm feeling. Don't try to resolve all the emotion so that you can pray in such a controlled way. Why would you treat prayer as something like that? It's not honest. You need to pray when you're angry, say, God, I'm angry. And here's why I'm angry. Here's why I'm frustrated. And then on the other side, he was just as out of control in the sense of when he would be proclaiming wonderful things to God. The adjectives that would come out of his mouth as he would express his love and desire for God and his praise towards him were magical. The litany of adjectives he would use, because David treated prayer in such an honest way. I would really encourage you tonight to think of the most honest and uncontrolled way that you could pray to God. I'm hurt, I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm frustrated. Or maybe it's on the other side of the equation. I am so unbelievably peaceful. I feel like I am absolutely still waters, that I'm eating green grass. What can you pray that's honest, that has your full emotional component involved? Don't create masterpieces. Be honest. Create reality in your prayer. You'll find God will respond to that, and he will minister to you because you're treating prayer from your soul, not from your head. Pray that kind of prayer tonight, and you will find a God that will meet you. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.